Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of January 2nd. Does anybody have any issues with that? Has everybody had a chance to read them? Those of you who were here. Okay, no other comments on that. Then I move that we approve the minutes of January 2nd. Do I have a seconder for that? Ted seconds that. All in favour who were present?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and it's approved. So we have a county update. I don't think Claire's here. There's a report in our...
Yeah, she emailed and said she wouldn't be here today.
Right, so I'm guessing everybody's had a chance to read that. We don't really need to go over it in a public meeting at this particular point. Good. So moving on quickly to the business agenda. This is the way to do it, guys. Might take a little longer than that. So the Enclave at Parkside, we need to, first of all, before we do anything else, we need to close the public hearing, which has been in existence for a long time at this particular point. I don't think there's anybody here to speak tonight, so we don't need to go through that part of it. So I guess we need a motion to do that, so I move that we close the public hearing on the Enclave at Parkside. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Okay, so that public hearing is now closed and we can move on to the staff report. I'm going to turn that over to Kevin. I guess everybody's had a chance to look at it. And,
So
there you go.
it's been a little while since we've talked about this project here, so I'll just go over a quick summary and what we're trying to accomplish this evening. So obviously, we know the property owners of the Enclave subdivision. They've submitted their preliminary plan to us and to the county. Shows 47 residential units in the form of the side-by-side townhomes, along with the open space and additional parcels designated for potential future commercial development. So the applicants have been working with the county agencies to amend the plan in order to address any concerns that the county agencies have had, and they are nearing the completion of that process. So staff felt that this would be an appropriate time for the Planning Commission to do another review of the plan and provide any additional feedback that we might have. So at the time of writing this staff report, the plan had received approval letters from all county agencies except for Stormwater Management and Development Review, but they've since gotten the development review approval, so now Stormwater Management is the last outstanding approval from the county. But by addressing any concerns, outstanding concerns from the county, we don't think it's going to alter the plan in any way that would impact our review this evening. So again, once all county agencies grant their approvals and comments from the Planning Commission have been adequately addressed, then the preliminary plan and pattern book will be ready for Planning Commission approval. So staff went through the preliminary plan and pulled out issues that we had, concerns, points that we want to discuss, or things that we want to clarify. I won't go through each point just for the sake of time, but for the most part, it was mostly minor things. A lot of the stuff was just comments on the notes from the first page, things that were maybe a typo or if you just want to clarify or a little bit more information added or switched around. And then there was a few comments on the setbacks in the pattern book and just making sure everything was what they wanted it to be on the plan. And then a comment on grading and a few on connectivity as well. And I did send all these comments to the applicant as well last week ahead of time, just so they were aware of the comments that staff had on this. They sent, as of today, they sent us a response going through each of our comments point by point and giving their response and the changes that they were going to make to the plan or going to make to the plan. So with all that being said, we know the PEC, in the PEC district, projects have a 3-step approval process: the concept plan, the preliminary plan, and the final. We've already approved the concept plan, and again, although the preliminary plan's not yet ready for approval, we're just asking the Planning Commission again to review it, along with the pattern book, provide feedback to the applicant, and then once all that feedback's incorporated along with the county feedback, then we'll be ready for preliminary plan and pattern book approval at that point.
okay. So this point might be useful, since you've had the notes from Kevin and Joe, if you want to address the issues. I'm not talking about the typos and the stuff that's good, but the stuff that deals with setbacks and connectivity. It might be useful if you just fill us in on what the raison d'etre for that is.
Thank you very much, Sean Davis. Is this on? Is it red on?
Oh, it's right.
It's on.
Okay. Sean Davis with Morris Ritchie Associates. We have Jason Van Kirk with Elm Street Development, and Dan Dolan with MRA as well. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to you tonight. I think the only thing that I would deviate from Town Planner Rubenstein's recommendation is, ideally, if we could obtain preliminary plan approval tonight contingent on the last county comments, which would be stormwater management, that would be ideal. We would love to see if we can do that. We've been through all of the county agencies. There was a lot of kind of back and forth, and we spent a lot of time with stormwater management. So we have here the 27-page submission to the county. Just so you know, the first 6 pages are actually the preliminary plan, and then pages 9 through 27 are stormwater management. We've done borings on every facility that's out there. We've had numerous meetings with Mr. Covington and his team, and we feel very, very confident that we've been able to address those. We're just waiting on that, and ideally, if we get that in, we literally could expect their letter any day now. They were, I think, saying that they were going to finish up their review last week. Then we'd really love to be able to get going on the final engineering for this as well. So with that, yes, your planner had provided us with a number of comments, great comments. Again, a lot of them were, dot the I's, cross the T's kinds of things, but there were a couple that were of note. First off, it says note number 19 is missing the side yard setback for N-unit townhomes. The existing pattern book indicates that there will be a minimum of 5-foot side yard setback for N units, but the plan shows a 10-foot setback on the typical lot layout. A 10-foot minimum side yard would make this plan consistent with the Parkside development. The pattern book may need to be updated following clarification from the applicant. We would like to stick with the 5-foot. These are actually much larger width townhomes than what is done at Parkside. These are 24-foot wide townhomes versus the 20 and 22. We're maintaining adequate distance between the units, so we would really like to stick with a 5-foot minimum. We're still going to be maintaining 20 feet end-to-end relationship, so it wouldn't matter. I mean, we could literally just say, okay, it's 10 feet and 10 feet, and there's a common property line. We'd like to keep 5 and 5 with a 10-foot open space between those for residents to be able to get from the back to the front. And the real justification is provide flexibility for that 24-foot wide unit. The next major comment was note 19, side to side, rear to side. Distances between residential buildings is missing. The pattern book indicates 20 feet for side to side and 35 feet for rear to rear. This differs slightly from the Parkside regulations, which have a 50-foot rear to side setback. The pattern book may need to be updated. Again, we would like to keep them as they're currently proposed, again, for flexibility. The plan is what the plan is, but if for some reason, we change units, you go out to the builder community and something changes, we're going to have to come back to you anyway. But we would like the flexibility to just maintain that.
Can I ask a question in reference to both of those? Is there an advantage to having it as a smaller in terms of the actual site layout? So some of the issues that I've thought about with this site is, being able to see the properties as you drive up or down 32. That's the biggest one. And so are there any advantages or disadvantages by having these setbacks instead of the 50-foot or the 10-foot, or are there, I just don't know in terms of the overall layout with how the structures will actually be on the property.
Well, I mean, the good thing is that the structures, the way they're laid out, I think meet a larger setback requirement. Okay, I mean, we literally have been able to meet that. The pattern book is a little bit different in that it's, the goal of the pattern book is to provide kind of the rules and regulations for future development and to maintain as much flexibility as possible. But, what you're going to be able to see from Route 32 because of the elevation that you're talking about, because of what's happening here, I mean, and because of what we're doing from a landscape standpoint in the back, it's going to be nominal. Absolutely nominal from Route 32. So I hope that answers your question.
I think so. So I don't think it is sort of the answer, right? If you change what the setbacks were within the pattern book to what they were at Parkside, it'd be a minimal change in terms of what the overall site layout kind of looks like.
The plan
That's what I'm gaining.
Yeah, the plan wouldn't change at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Really. So I mean, we've been able to.
That's the part I couldn't figure out by by
I mean, it's a
words.
great catch. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's a great catch saying, hey, this is a little bit, A, you need to clarify your notes. B, and this is a little bit different from Parkside. You know, why did you do this? Let's make sure you're all on the same page for it, which was great. We're just trying to just maintain flexibility because the way the plan's set up is, you know, this is the preliminary plan.
Okay.
To clarify as meant by this note. There was a question regarding the parking. We cleaned that up, I think, to everybody's satisfaction, and that we're going to provide what the code requires, which is 2 parking spaces, a minimum of 2 parking spaces per home. Maximum speed limit is 25, and it must be updated. Note has been revised to 25. Grading. During the concept plan discussion in April 2023, God, it seems so long ago, the applicant explained that they were mandated to implement runoff and sediment control measures during grading construction phases. Staff wants to ensure that this remains a high priority for the applicant, so there is minimal impacts to residents of the Parkside community. We also recognize that there have been comments through the construction of Parkside that, you know, regarding sediment and erosion control. We agree with you 100%. Sediment and erosion control plans are required. They're reviewed and approved by the county Soil Conservation District. We agree with you 100%. And I think, as we had said back in April, when one of the residents had spoken up, we're like, if you see something, you know, we're not there every second of every day, but if you see something, if you let us know, we can correct it, you know, immediately, which we would obviously do. Then I think connectivity, staff feels that the sidewalks, extensions, and crosswalks would be appropriate to connect the following locations. And there's a list of locations. It says stick 01 to 05 and stick 06 to 10 across Village Greenway, and 638 to 42, 43 through 47 across Village Greenway at the intersection with Town Park Drive. Below, in the southeast edge, the neighborhood square open space along Town Park Drive to connect the sidewalks in the sections nearest to 21 and 37. The retaining wall will be needed on both sides of Village Greenway, which will prevent the addition of a sidewalk between sticks 01 and 05 and 06 and 010. The sidewalk in front of sticks 38 through 42 and 43 through 47 has crosswalks at the crossing point on Village Greenway. A sidewalk has been added to the southwest edge of the center open space with crosswalks to connect the sidewalks nearest units 21 and 27. So we believe we've been able to address that to the best of our ability with some of the grading considerations. And then I think probably the big one is the original preliminary plan showed a completed trail connection from Town Park Drive to the existing Carrie Dorsey Park Loop. The updated plan is showing a proposed 8-foot trail near the entrance of the neighborhood along Town Park Drive, which dead ends at the proposed trail by others. Staff is unaware of any proposed trail at that location. Would prefer to see the original trail connection or an indication of how the new trail would tie into the existing paved trails. So the original trail location was through an on-site stream buffer with steep slopes, priority 1 forest, and the critical root zone for a specimen tree. So to avoid these would require passing through an off-site forest conservation easement not owned by the developer. For these reasons, it was removed from the plan. The developer is more than willing to extend the trail to the existing trail network, provided that the town grants a fee simple or easement access in order to make the connection. We should have also added, and assuming that the town would be willing to cooperate with the county and any state agencies that need to get through that forest conservation easement. So it's land that we don't own. We would love to make the connection. It makes perfect sense, but it's going through some environmental stuff, and if we propose it, it's not going to go over very well. If the town says this is something that we're really, really interested in, works with the county, expresses that, when we would be more than happy to help and make that connection. We fully, would endorse that. We want the connection. That's why we showed it the first time. Then reality snuck in on us. So yeah, we would be more than happy to continue that conversation. But we need the town to affirmatively tell all the review agencies the town wants this. It's through the town property, and therefore.
You're talking about the original proposed trail, or where the trail is now shown?
No, for where the trail is now shown, there is a potential connection down to the loop in Carrie Dorsey.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about. We would have to push the county on
Yes.
getting even what's shown.
Correct.
built.
That location still goes through the priority forest area that we need to have rights going through. The one that was farther kind of up the page, shall I say. Included wetland areas, stream buffer areas, specimen tree areas, things that start to involve, Army Corps, MDE, permit levels that really aren't looking for, recreation through those areas.
So then,
So this
This
was
trail-
originally coming up here.
right, so the trail now is shown just right here. Are you talking about just like bringing it straight down? Or are you talking about bringing it this way?
No, we would bring it actually probably down, we would probably bring it down this way to
Okay.
tie into this trail.
Yeah. There's a couple alignments there. I mean, it can head more that way or that way. We're open
Okay.
to what makes the most sense.
But the town owns the property.
Right. No, because again, when we were looking at it, it was, there's overhead power lines right there. We weren't sure exactly where the potential alignment could even go.
We can be more than happy to show that to you
Yeah.
in our next submission.
Okay.
What's the process, Joe, for getting this sort of connectivity approved through the town? Is there a process that the council has to do, or how
No,
is that?
through the town, it's pretty easy because once you agree to the alignment, you can approve whatever it is that you need to approve. It's just a matter of if it's going to pass muster with forest
Sure.
conservation and all of the other environmental agencies you have to go through in order to disturb that already set easement. So basically, all that shaded area, or this whole area, is forest conservation. So you'd have to basically cut a path. And obviously, when the original trail that goes through Carrie Dorsey Park, that's what all this area is. So that's why you see the gaps in the forest conservation easements, because those are trails. Matter of fact, this is a sewer easement, I think, that goes through
Yep.
here. So again, the existing path kind of dead ends right here. It's planned to actually continue all the way around and connect as a loop. Whereas their original trail, that what they were showing, actually came up through here and came actually close to the river and tied in up on the north side.
Now, people still walk through there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there is a path, but
Sure.
there's a path. That's the reality of it.
Well, I went out.
But
I went out tonight before we met for dinner beforehand, and it was great to see. I mean, there was half a dozen people walking
Oh, yeah.
around. So it's wonderful, and obviously we would like to take advantage of that as well. But we don't want to. We also don't want to push rope uphill. So
Sure, but I mean, how long would that process take, Joe? I mean, I don't
4
want to hold
years.
this up
Yeah.
for.
Just kidding.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'd have to start those conversations. And I imagine we'd have some time between preliminary
Yeah.
and final plan to at least start having those discussions with the county to figure that out.
And we'd be more than happy to participate in those conversations. I think us going to the county and talking about this versus the town going to the county and saying, hey, we would really like to see this, we're working with the developer, and so on and so forth. Without that, it's dead on arrival, and they're,
It just connects with, it aligns with our connectivity principles that we've
Yes.
been pushing within the town. And I'm saying obvious things, Joe, but I would imagine that there'd be quite a few people on the council that would have an interest in
Absolutely, yeah.
moving that forward.
I mean, I think you can actually look to your comprehensive, your 2030 comprehensive plan and just say, this is
Yeah.
what it establishes in the plan, this is what we're trying to do, this is a major park element, for all those reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that addresses, unless I missed anything, that addresses the major points. Yeah, so if I was to go a little bit,
Basically, this is where the proposed trail kind of stops right about there.
Yep.
And you have to figure out how to get it basically down to here.
yeah, and you can see, I'm sorry.
And that shows a couple things there, Joe. Like where we had it farther up is much more established forest, whereas down the area now where we have that connection point being proposed is in some areas that have been reforested.
Yes.
They've been taking a lot of beaver damage.
Yes, they should.
If you go down and walk through there,
I counted 17 trees that beaver's taken down.
yeah, no, it's
hungry.
it's crazy. When I first went down in there and looked, I was amazed to see what was going on there. But I see it as the less impact to create that easement and trail through there because of the condition of what it is right now, versus being farther up, closer to the stream in the truly priority forest areas. While this area is, we're trying to create it as priority forest at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you could pull that aerial down a little bit, you can see where the natural, no, the other way. Yeah, you can see where that upper loop
Yeah.
comes back around and then ties into that elbow yeah, perfect, right there. So there's plenty of opportunity to connect along there. We just gotta figure out the least disturbance and make sure that we're all on the same page, and then go to the county and say, hey, we wanna collectively do this.
Okay. I have a question about the recreation area that you're creating there. Does that involve grading? Or is it just a case of leaving that open space and calling it recreation area? What
This
are you
area
gonna
right
do with
here?
that? Yeah,
Oh, no, it's graded,
it's great.
yeah.
It's gonna be graded relatively flat.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be graded very flat. I mean, you can see we're sloping down on, basically on these two, on the northern side and on the eastern side, to create a level playing field up here.
Okay. And once this is all built out, who's responsible for the maintenance of that? Is that gonna be the
PB
homeowners
Homeowners
association?
Association.
Yeah. Is it gonna be a combined homeowners association? Is that the view, or is it gonna be two homeowners associations?
So Parkside always has the option of combining those together, but it takes a 2/3 vote, and that's almost impossible, never happens. And so, I will say it's a possibility if people want to commingle resources and contractors and that sort of thing, but it almost never comes to pass. And so I see it as being a separate HOA,
Okay.
maintaining that.
Makes perfect sense for it to be combined, because, these residents can go up there and use the playing field, these residents can go down and use the tot lot, but
Right.
That's for them to decide. Yeah. Yep. Okay, any other questions about where we stand at this particular point?
I have one other question. It's just because I remember Parkside getting built, and I was the pesky guy that would ask about the stormwater stuff, and I just don't understand how the process works. So if you could explain that just a little bit about how you're going to do all the grading that's required, and it not have a major impact on the residents that are in Parkside now. How does that work? Do you not do some of the construction for a while to help with that, or I just don't know how it works?
No, so, I mean, as part of our approval process through the county, through both the stormwater management and erosion sediment control, we establish clear erosion sediment control measures throughout the construction, from, the first, piece of dirt that's moved all the way through conversion of sediment basins into ultimate stormwater management facilities. The process is pretty clear. I mean, they too, they don't want to get any calls from those
Sure.
residents. So, we establish erosion sediment control measures first and foremost. Then you start doing grading. You create sediment basins to basically hold any runoff temporarily until construction is complete and that facility is converted to a stormwater management environmental site design feature and whatnot. And then once it's approved by the county, then it's turned over to, in this case, the property owners, homeowners association. And so, I mean, the process is very, very clearly laid out. That doesn't mean that there's not things that come up. I mean, we put up a silt fence, or super silt fence, along, in accordance with our approved plans, and a storm comes and something happens to it, and we're doing the best we possibly can, but we don't see that.
Sure.
We need to know about it, because obviously it's in our best interest to correct that immediately as well. So, and I think we established that during our last meeting in April or May of 2023, that, that's really where we wanted to, if anybody sees anything, you just gotta let us know.
And there's several levels of oversight that occur. So, as the plan approval is going through, it's going through engineering and stormwater at the county. It also, Soil Conservation District oversees the E&S side of the plans as well. That approval needs to be had in order to go get your stormwater discharge permit from Maryland Department of Environment, your MPDES permit. And so that permit has state officials that come out and review your after storm logs and all of your stormwater management facilities, and provide monthly reports and after storm reports that we're both providing through a third party, but then MDE will come out and be overseeing that as well. And then you also have the construction division of Carroll County that is doing that under their grading permit. And so the issuance of that grading permit, you have inspectors from the county that are coming out, also looking at those NPDES logs, the NOI logs, the other thing you talk about them as, and we get when we have problems with something being overrun, like Sean's talking about, or something like that, we'll generally hear from one of those two inspectors first if we don't see it ourselves or our contractor doesn't see it. And then obviously, yes, if there's if a resident is seeing something, we want to hear about that as well. Sometimes the residents just don't know who the right person to call is, where they should be calling the county construction inspection. You know, they sometimes call into here, and you know, we've had ones where then Joe's sending us pictures about, you know, some sediment on the trail, and so then we go out and figure out where it's coming from, clean it up, and figure out and fix the problem. So there's multiple layers and multiple eyes that are looking at all those, and with the whole intent that when you disturb property, before you want to keep every single drop that drops on property and settled, so sediment comes out of it and all of that, you know, until you're fully stabilized. Then you end up with the environmental site design and all the fire retentions.
And the construction areas around the perimeter is all wrapped with a super silt fence. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you know, it's chain link fence with fabric, or it's not like sometimes you see the black fabric laying down on the side of the road or something. It's not that. You know, there's super silt fence. It's very robust. I've seen sediment filled up to the top of those things and they don't move. So that's kind of the main defense at the perimeter to keep stuff coming from onto other people's property.
And obviously, I mean, everybody who's reviewing this knows that this is a knoll,
Yeah.
and it falls off on all
Well,
directions.
that's why I keep asking about it,
Yeah.
because it seems like gravity is going to pull it. You know, it's
It is.
it's an enemy, right?
It is.
Gravity.
And so we know that, and so that's where we establish, you know, all the erosion sediment control features.
Sean, if you could, just because I think it'd be good for everybody just to see. So, units 1 through 5, right there, there's no stormwater detention underneath them, and that's a pretty steep slope down.
It
So,
is.
like Dan mentioned, where would the fence go? The super silt fence? Would
It's
it just
probably
be
gonna go
right
right
along
around.
that property line?
Yeah. I mean, I can. Is it shown on the? Do we have the ENS?
Yeah, we don't have the sediment control yet.
Right.
That's-
But it's probably going to be.
But yeah, it would be in the
Final
It would be
plan.
along that property line to
Level,
hopefully prevent any significant drainage that was coming off, particularly where 1 through 5 is, just because again, there is no detention area right
Correct.
there.
I mean, all of that detention is directed this way. Okay, so everything that's coming off here will be treated here, but
When it's done.
No, even in a temporary basis, because we have to create sediment basins, you know, to handle this stuff. It's not just we put up the fence and we say, okay, we're good. We put up the fence and then we put in sediment basins, and the fence is kind of like, you know, the suspenders and
Yeah.
belt,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're hitting it in both ways. Now, I can't tell you right off the top of my head whether or not it would be on the property line or whether it would be at the toe of the
Sure.
slope for grading. Probably at the toe of the slope for grading, because this is naturally, you know, vegetated right now,
Right.
and there's no reason to expose that to further potential damage from a flooding event.
It's just that's where the most significant slope, at least coming
Totally.
down from one of the townhouses. is.
Yep, it's there and here.
Right.
And I mean, you can see there's another facility right here, and there's actually a small retaining wall that's there as well, so.
And that erosion sediment control plan is one of the big aspects of what gets added in when we go to final plans. To really, and a sequence of construction is often a lot of what really is what you're talking about. What happens first, then this, then that, and it will go through and say, you know, these controls need to be in, this trap needs to be done before anything else is opened up, and they're always a little bit different. But that's one of the, you can have 100 sheets of a plan set. And I, as the developer, have, you know, and preach this constantly, the most important section is the section that's about that big on sequence of construction. Because you gotta follow it, the inspectors are watching it, and they want you to do it, and it has to work.
Mhm.
And so that's what we would see at the next plan stage.
Any other questions, issues? So, Joe and Kevin, in terms of the request for a vote tonight on a preliminary plan, it's not been part of the agenda, so it's not been publicly announced that would be something that would be something we'll be doing tonight. I'm not sure that I feel comfortable at this point doing that, because the public really hasn't had a chance to weigh in on a vote.
And I think,
And also, I'm not entirely sure that I'm prepared, that I've studied the plans in enough detail
That's the most
to be
important
able
thing.
to be able to do it. And I'm guessing that my colleagues here probably may feel the same way about that.
well, again, I think, at the worst case scenario is 30 days from now, you're prepared
Yeah.
to give the final vote. Now, again, I don't know, I know for you need those votes and you need those approvals before you can move on to final plan, but if the only thing that's outstanding is a letter from Stormwater and a vote from this body, I'm sure you can start making steps to at least proceed with final.
I mean, ideally, it just minimizes
Sure.
risk because, between now and, a March planning commission meeting, who knows what could happen. But yeah, I mean, ideally it would be, but I understand and appreciate it. Just so for the record though, the public meeting was closed, right?
Public hearing.
Okay, so the public hearing was closed, I'm sorry. So there's no additional public comment, but I appreciate and understand your recommendation that the public be notified that the vote will happen, so.
And also, I'd need to study that plan more carefully. I wasn't aware that it was a possibility to vote tonight. And so I just don't feel comfortable myself that I've done due diligence in studying that plan. Probably be no issues, but who knows? I'd just like a bit more time to do that. So,
Well, ideally, I mean, okay, I respect that. I mean, ideally, it would be great if we were able to get comments from the county stormwater management reviewers. The reason why we're here is we wanted to just make sure you guys are all cool with the plan, so that if we get those, and if we were able to get a vote, fantastic. If not, but if we recognize that the plans are satisfactory to you, then yeah, we would move forward. But if you still want to review the plans and additional items may pop up, then I guess we're gonna have to wait until March.
I think so. Okay. Any other issues with that? No? Okay. So we don't need to vote on anything tonight. We're just going to move on, and we'll look forward to seeing you in March. And we'll be
Hopefully
ready
with
to go
stormwater
then.
management approval in hand and
Hopefully
ready to
everything will be
go.
ready to go. And,
The only thing I'd add there, just like they got some comments to us from staff and we're able to respond to them.
Mhm.
If there are comments that
Yes.
come up in the next, couple of weeks as you guys are looking at this,
Mhm.
knowing what those are to be prepared and make any adjustments or to address any of the concerns you have, we're all ears and ready to do that so that we could have as productive of a March meeting as possible.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Okay. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for all that. And I think we're ready to move on at this particular point to the 2023 annual report, which, from what I looked at, was nothing to see here.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was like nothing.
Yeah, so as Phil mentioned, the 2023 annual report, so just a quick overview for everyone, quick reminder. So the county Department of Planning compiles information every year for an annual report. It gets it to the Maryland Department of Planning, so it's due every year by July 1st. And then the Department of Planning uses this information to produce a statewide report, which helps guide its planning policy, funding decisions for the year, things like that. So by providing our data for the countywide submittal that satisfies Sykesville's requirement. Again, as Phil mentioned, it was a very light year in terms of approvals, plans, if anything. I think everything was a no, only a checklist. Which, I think for the 2024 report, we'll have a little bit more, especially with this project here, but in terms of 23, it was pretty light, so as long as everything looks good, we can have a motion to approve that, unless anyone has any comments or adjustments that need to be made, and then we can have Phil as the chair sign the letter, get that sent off to the county, and be done with that till next year.
Any comments on the no?
On the nose.
For it? Okay. In which case, then I move that we approve the 2023 annual report as presented. Ted seconding that. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye, good to go with that. All right, I'll sign it before I go tonight. Great. And town updates.
Yeah, I have a few. So, first, the Joy Property Garage, I think 7306 Springfield Avenue up the road. So, council did vote to approve a text amendment to allow for service garages as a conditional use in town, in the business local zone. So now, I think it becomes official 20 days after the vote, which is coming up next week. But at this point, we are just waiting for them to submit a Board of Zoning Appeals application to us so we can get that process started, the conditional use process started. We haven't heard anything from them since the council meeting, but we're hoping to hear something from them soon to get that BZA process started. And then, assuming they get an approval, we'll have a site plan process, which will come before you guys to look at and review before they start actually doing anything up there, anything further.
Can we just dwell on that for
Yes.
just one more moment? A lot of really positive comments about all of your work in reference to reviewing the Joy property and the extensive research that you did, the questions, the 2 or 3, I think, meetings that we had in reference to it. So just a lot of accolades there. I just want to share those with you and make sure that you're aware of it in case you haven't seen the council meetings.
Good.
Thanks.
Good. Okay. Next thing, so this is something that actually just came up today. College Avenue property. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that property, but it's on the other side of 32. There's a little road, College Avenue, and there's about just over 5 acre parcel of land that sold recently. It's split zoned. Half of it's R10,000, half is conservation, and the owners are planning on putting a residence there, potentially raising horses at some point if they have the space, but we will address that when we get there. But got some notice today that there was a lot of clearing of trees going on back there without permits. So county inspectors went out, took a look at it, put a stop work until they can get those permits approved. But that was just a new development, so just keep an eye on that. If anyone drives down and sees about an acre or 2 of new cleared land that wasn't there a week ago.
It is. It's
Yeah.
cleared.
So,
Interesting. The last development that I remember being proposed there was a gas station
yeah, there's been
many years ago.
there's been a lot of ideas tossed around. I know, like of assisted
You
living
weird spot.
facility
Yeah.
at one point, but
Well, everything that was proposed wasn't allowed, so
Right.
it just kind of went nowhere.
so luckily, from what we understand, the new owners, they just want to build a house there and live in it, which is nice. Kind of gets rid of all the additional issues, but obviously they need to get the proper permits and go through the right channels for all that.
So you need a permit in order to clear some of your land on your own property.
Above, yeah,
Over.
yeah,
a certain
over a certain
amount.
area, I think it's 5,000 square feet
Yeah.
of clearing. You need to get a permit for, because there's stormwater implications and forest conservation implications as well. So they were clearing.
It's very interesting.
Yes,
Mhm.
but
Very.
There may be people on the council that might have asked this question about other areas in town where there was some tree clearing going on. I don't know if it met that requirement or not. I didn't actually measure it, so. It did? Yeah, okay. You measured it. You must have measured it. It's good.
but they've been stopped until they get all the appropriate
Sure.
permits. Next thing, so the new zoning ordinance, we as staff met with the consultants last week and did a kind of a character map evaluation of the town, kind of identifying different what we're calling character areas, which is going to kind of help influence how the new zoning map looks and the zones that we create and the zones that we use. And then our next steering committee meeting is coming up next Tuesday on the 13th. So we're making progress there. The consultant sent us a very early draft of containing some of the potential language for that ordinance. So again, we're still pretty early in that process, but definitely making progress and excited to see where that goes. And then the last one that I wanted to mention personally is we need a new member for our Board of Zoning Appeals. So not asking anyone here to join because you would have to leave this body, but if you happen to know of anyone who would be interested in joining our Board of Zoning Appeals, we'd really appreciate a 3rd member. So if you have anyone,
Even a possible alternate if we have
right, and a possible alternate as well.
We
So
have
I mean, if we
multiple people.
if we could get multiples, that'd be great. But for the time being, we have two members on that board, and we'd really like to add a 3rd and hopefully an alternate, even if possible. So if you know of anyone who might be interested, just have them reach out to Jana or myself, and hopefully we can fill that spot. So
Do we have any applicants for Steve's old position in the planning commission?
not currently. So.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's all I had for town updates.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? No? Well, in which case, We should be, at this point, ready for a motion to adjourn. So I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Brandon. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, we're done. That wasn't, thought it would be a longer meeting.